Hi friends, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I am here with a writing update. Let's jump right into it. Today we're going to talk about my new work in progress and getting ready for NaNowrimo. Here's my thoughts on NaNowrimo. Can you write a full novel in a month? Sure. Is it going to be a draft zero rough draft? Yes. I have multiple times written 50,000 words in a month. That's not necessarily a problem to me, especially if I prep and I have a good outline. However, you need to realize that this is still a rough draft, that you need to then do edits and beta, and you can't just finish Nano and query, which I think early beginner writers or outsiders looking in think that these people are going to do this, and then at the end of the month think that they have something that's query worthy. You're not going to. No, nobody is. It's not how it works. I've done Nano in the past. I actually have out, like I said in my last video, right now I have a contemporary that's out with early readers that I actually wrote last year during NaNoWriMo, and this year I'll be working on another novel. So I like that as a schedule for me. Like every year, if I write during Nano, I can kind of put it aside when I'm done with it and be at a place where I'm ready to hard edit, query, and really work on the last book that I wrote and trying to get that sold. Once my queries are out, to distract myself from waiting, then I work on the next thing, outlining the next thing, really like digging deep into like whatever idea has been brewing in my head. So that's a schedule that I'm comfortable with, that I'm happy with. That's what I'm working with right now. One is out to early readers. I'm working on another one. The funny thing about this one is that this story came to me while I was at Highlights. So last year on November 1st, I checked into Highlights, which I don't know if everybody knows about this. It's nationwide. I don't know if it's worldwide, but Highlights is a magazine. It's a children's magazine, and I used to get it when I was a kid. You could do writing contests and get your writing put into it. There was always these like picture searches. It was in every doctor's office. It was everywhere. It had articles and information for kids, and I adored it. My parents got it for me for my entire childhood, and it was a big part of my childhood. I always wanted to see what people were, like other kids had submitted for drawings and writing. It was a large part of my childhood. Well, turns out that the founders of Highlights actually have a whole campus that is not far from me. It's not far from my house. It's actually in the Poconos. So it's about a 2.5-hour drive from me. They have cabins and lodges and communal spaces, and it's just for children's writers, illustrators, or writers in general. And you can go there, and for the fee of a night or whatever, you get all of your meals prepared by like this amazing chef. There's 24-hour open communal spaces for writing, for snacks, for coffee, tea, hot chocolate, ice cream bars. Like there's a happy hour and wine and beer available at all times in communal fridges in the 24-hour area. So you can drink as much as you want, eat as much as you want. They supply you with caffeine and snacks and then 3 really great meals. But there's no TVs. There's spotty Wi-Fi at best. But there is this amazing community of writers that go and you just write, talking about our projects and how our word counts were going for the day. And we just wrote. I'll link the video here and in a description down below so you can kind of see the campus and see what I'm talking about. I walk you around my cabin. I walk you around the grounds, which are kind of expansive. In every room, there's, you know, beds, bathroom, you got all of your essentials, and then there's a bookshelf. And a lot of the books that are on those bookshelves are by people who have been published that wrote at Highlights, and then there's also just, you can bring a book, leave a book, and take a book. This is a much different Julie than you saw in the last clip. And I'm sorry, I meant to sit down and film the whole thing right through, and then I left for my sister's gender reveal. And then I got home, and I was not feeling fantastic, so I did not film again. So you're getting next day Julie with no makeup, hair in a pony, messy bun, and a hoodie. And we're going to still talk about my current work in progress, where I'm at, where I'm going, and how I'm prepping for November. So I think when I talked to you last, I was discussing how I had been at Highlights and what Highlights meant to me as a kid and how cool it was to be there, and it was phenomenal. But I was discussing these bookshelves that were in every room. So every room, every cabin, and I think even every room, there's a whole bunch of cabins, and then there's like a lodge. There's a couple different places where you can stay while you're there, but I think all of them have a bookshelf of some sort. Mine had multiple. So I was looking before we left, and I hadn't brought any to leave, so I wasn't going to take anything. There was these really cool editions of some like really neat books, and I always look for The Secret Garden because I have all of these editions of The Secret Garden. I have some that are like the Barnes & Noble exclusive. I have some that I read from when I was a kid, the movie tie-ins. I have all these, you know, editions of the book because it was one of my favorite stories from when I was a kid. So I figured it's a kid's book. There might be copies here. So I'm looking through the bookshelf, and we're getting ready to check out. We had to be out of the room so they could come in and clean them, but we could still stick around, go to lunch, right, as long as we wanted to before we left. So I came across this on the shelves, and I was like, what could that be? This is what is on it. So it says 4/2006 to 10/2006, or just 4/2006, 10/2006, if you can see. And then it has like an affirmation on it. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. In every room of the cabins, there's a journal. There's like a notebook where you can write, and you can put the date, and you can put about your stay. You can talk about your stay and what you got done, your word count, what your goals were, what kind of wildlife you saw. The book that was in my cabin was talking about how there was like a porcupine or something that had climbed up on the windowsill air conditioning unit. We went in October, November. It was well past needing an air conditioner. And we went in November. What am I saying? November 1st. And the woman who had wrote that was actually in the cabin next to me at the same exact time. Like, she was there again. And so it was interesting. And I flipped through the book a little bit. I think I actually show myself flipping through the book in that journal. Or in the vlog, I think I actually show myself flipping through the book. And I figured this is just another one of those. Like, this is another chronicle from the cabin. So I was like, oh, let me flip through it. It's not from the cabin. This is a journal. This is somebody's full-on diary that somehow got left up there. And I didn't know what was worse, leaving it and having this person's thoughts kind of out in the world, or taking it and reading it or getting rid of it. Like, what do you do? Like, right, these are somebody's like deepest, most true inner thoughts that they wrote down on paper, expecting nobody to read them. And it's 6 months of their life in 2006. And what do I do? The thing is that it starts in September of 2002, this particular journal. And then I guess they lose it, or something happens, and then it starts again in April 2006. And they mention, like, I finished an old journal and I was looking for another one, and I found this one, and I didn't remember I had started it. So I'm just going to use this one again. And 3.5 years has taken place between like the original entry and then the rest of the journal. So you see like what their hopes and dreams and like where they are 3.5 years ago, and then where they are now, and what's changed in their life, and then it goes forward. And I was so intrigued. I ended up driving home from highlights, and Amber read aloud from this while I drove home for like 2.5 hours. And we experienced this woman's life, like this chunk of this woman's life. I was torn between it feeling like invasive, but also I couldn't leave it there. There was something like I just couldn't leave it there. So it sparked this idea for a book. What would you do if you were, like, if you found this journal? Like, what could this mean? And originally, my original story idea for this was a thriller. And it was a woman who found a journal at like this sensitive, pivotal, critical time in her life, and she was really struggling. She connected with this woman and was starting to see a lot of similarities between herself and the woman that she was reading about in the journal, and deciding that she needs to find out who it was. So she researches and she figures out who it is, and then realizes that the person has passed away and under mysterious circumstances. And she knows details from the journal that lead her to believe it wasn't an accident, which is what the death was ruled. And so she searches and locates the son, starts talking to the son online under like dubious, flirtatious methods, and then finally goes and meets up with him through a connection with the son, gets access to the rest of the journals, because it's clear this is not the first journal or the only journal, and tries to unravel what actually happened to this woman. And it becomes like this big thriller, this big like family-led thriller where it, all these different pieces weave, and I had the red herrings. And then I realized I'm reading all these thrillers lately. I'm still only reading thrillers, and I'm really enjoying them. But I don't know if I have the chops to write a thriller. And even if I did, I'm querying right now a fantasy. I'm beta and getting ready to query a contemporary. And then if my third book that I wrote was a thriller, it would be very hard to do all that and have one agent. Statistically, they don't usually cover that many genres. Now, everything that I'm writing is adult, so that helps a little bit, but what I ended up doing is deciding that this is not necessarily a thriller. What it is a woman who is in her late 20s, maybe early 30s, I'm not really sure yet, who has lost a mother to illness. It was a single mother situation, so it's always been just her and her mom. She loses her job. She loses the place that she's living at through all these different series of situations. And she realizes that she's always been a caregiver. She's always been a stick-with-it kind of a person, a follow a logical path. When all these different things in life kind of kick her, she finds a journal. And our main character is feeling very much related to that. And she starts to believe that she has to know what happened to this woman, because if this woman made it work, if this woman could, find happiness, the journal ends on a cliffhanger, and she doesn't know what decision she made, which path she took, and she's invested, right? She has to figure this out. So again, she goes online, she goes sleuthing to try to figure out through the names in the journal or the dates in the journal and the events in the journal who this woman is, where she's located, how this journal came to be, where she found it. I don't want to give like everything away, but she does take a road trip to go to where this woman lives. The whole thing is she's trying to figure out like what she actually wants and what actually excites her and what she wants to be doing with her life now that she has the freedom to do that. She doesn't have a sick mother to care for or to worry about financially. She doesn't have a job she has to go back to right now. She doesn't have anything tying her to any one particular place. So she takes this road trip out to go find this woman and her family and figure out what happened after the journal ends. And along the way, learns a lot about herself, probably learns everything she needs to know about herself before she gets out there, but she's so focused on that end goal that like nothing else matters. It's a self-discovery novel. It's a later in life self-discovery novel. Like there's no timeline on when you figure out what's important to you and what makes you happy and what you want out of life. Like there's no deadline on that. But I love the idea of having journal passages and seeing a relationship to a stranger and being so lost that you identify so heavily with a stranger that like their future and their outcome is so linked to what you believe is your future and outcome. And it all stems back to this journal that I found on a bookshelf 2.5, 3 hours away from where I live at a place I'd never been to before, and kind of sparked this idea in me. So that's what I'm writing. So let's talk about, now that I have the idea, now that I had a spark for an idea, what I do from there. First of all, I definitely use the Save the Cat novel writing method. There are so many tabs in this. There's so much in this. If you're familiar with Save the Cat, what I use as the basic guiding premise for this book is the rite of passage, which is a character's emotional growth, their finding of themselves. It's a journey, right? It's like an emotional journey a getting to know yourself journey. There is a lot of that in YA, but like I said, there's no time frame on that. So I'm using that to outline. Also using, because I originally had it pegged as a thriller, more of a thriller. This is Mastering Suspense, Structure, and Plot. This is by Jane K. Cleland. Jessica Brody did the Save the Cat, by the way. And I also use Goal, Motivation, Conflict by Deborah Dixon. This one goes over goals and motivation and conflict and how that can keep a book running smoothly. So those are the 3 books that I use. I feel like those are the 3 craft books that I use the most. These are my go-tos. So these stay on my desk all the time. Those are things that I'll have with me throughout all of NaNo to just go over. And then I have this. This is my notebook. Every book that I write gets a notebook, their own dedicated notebook. This is my notebook for this particular book. And I also have a ton in Scrivener. So this is my on the go, if I have any thoughts for the book, they go into here. This, in the beginning, I'll have all of my plotting, original brainstorming notes. Towards the middle, I'll have editing notes. At the end, I'll have querying notes. And I use one notebook for each of my stories. Basically, on hand at all times for this book, I will have the 3 of these craft books, and then both of these notebooks. The journal and my writing notebook will be on hand at all times, as well as my blue light canceling glasses. The other essential for me right now is Scrivener. So I do use Scrivener for my novel writing. I know not everybody does. Some people use Word, some people use Google Docs. I use Scrivener. I love Scrivener. It's just feels like home to me. It's organized. It gives me all of the structure that I want when I am writing. I have my character sheets in there, my settings, I have all of my notes, all of my brainstorming. Originally, I had everything in there for red herrings and misdirections and plot points that don't apply anymore because I'm not outlining a thriller anymore. Redoing a lot of that right now. But a lot of my character work and a lot of the basics still stand. The characters haven't necessarily changed that much. Just the overall plot and arc that the story is taking has changed. Currently, today, I will be going into Scrivener. I will be continuing to do my Save the Cat outline. I don't do too much. I do maybe 5 or 6 paragraphs on each chapter of what I see happening within that chapter, what the character's emotions are, what I hope the reader's emotions are, and what the purpose of that specific scene is towards the ultimate goal and how it moves my character forward or backward. So I have purpose for the scene, emotions of the characters in the scene, emotions of the reader, hopefully while reading that scene. And I will go through and loosely outline each of my chapters as well as those 3 points that I want to make sure I'm hitting in each chapter. I make it a little bit looser and a little bit less detailed the further in I go. So like after the midway point of the book, like the halfway point of the book, they get a little bit more vague because I want to let myself write the first half first and then I'll reassess the ending. Is typically how I think works best for me, but I at least know where I'm going and I know the basic groundwork, and then I can put in more detail as I write the beginning parts because some things do evolve and grow and change as I write the beginning. But for NaNo and for November 1st, I want to at least have those basics down. So today I'm going back through with my emotional tells, how it furthers the story. I'm going in and doing all that. I do have through my midpoint outlined in detail. I need to go through from my midpoint to the ending and outline loosely. This story has been sitting in my head since I pretty much was writing the first contemporary. Again, it's changed a lot from a thriller to what it is now because again, if I'm hoping to get an agent, I want them to be able to work with me consistently across multiple books. And I feel like this is an area where I might be able to write as a career writer or be happy writing as a career writer within a contemporary fiction, women's fiction type of a genre. So that is my current work in progress. That is how I'm prepping for NaNo. I do hope to hit 50,000 words during NaNo. I'm already at 10,000 words, but that's purely outline and notes. But it leaves me in a place where I am so ready to sit down and write. I know exactly what I want from each chapter and from each section of my writing as I go forward in the book. This prep will absolutely set me up for success for actual NaNo, which is all I want. Like that's what you need going into NaNo. So those are my goals. That is my plan. I will update you. I will have vlogs throughout NaNo. I will have those productivity sprints that I talked about in the last video throughout NaNo, where on the weekend I do live streaming and I'll be writing, but you could be reading, you could be doing schoolwork, you could be doing unhauls, cleaning your room, doing dishes, whatever it is that you need to do that you've set, like, I have to focus on doing this one task. Maybe you don't really want to do it. You can come hang out with me for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long I do it for, and be productive alongside me doing whatever it is that you're doing. If it's not writing, that's fine. There's still plenty of things that are on our to-do list. You can edit a video while I sit and write, and we'll do it together and just hold each other accountable for getting some work done. So throughout November, what you can plan to see from me is writing vlogs, some productivity sprints, and then hopefully some reading. Hopefully I am still making time to be doing reading. That's it. That's what you're gonna get from me. But I feel like I am prepared. I feel like I have the essentials with me. I have the tools that I need, and I have the knowledge of the story and the characters in my head right now, I think, for the most part. So I'm going to go continue to flesh them out and get them ready for NaNo. We've got, you know, not a ton of time left. Today's the 18th, and I want to be fully prepared for November 1st. Thank you for coming along this journey with me. I'm really excited for this story and for these characters and to see how it unfolds, especially from where it started. And just like a really unique, inspirational jumping off point. It's a weird way to get an idea for a story. I mean, there is no weird way to get an idea for a story, but it's a unique way to get an idea for a story, and I'm excited about it. So let me know if you're participating in NaNo. Does the premise of this story sound like one that you would be interested in reading? Hopefully it is. Let me know in a comment down below. I love talking to you guys. I will respond to all comments. And that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys. Oh, Jesus.